It's been a number of months or weeks or some amount of time since the last book haul. Time is a social construct. There is only ever now. There is not then. There is not to come. There is only now. The present moment. The one that you are living right now. So let's look at some books. First up, we did get the news that the first 3 books in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series has been picked up by a publisher. Which is super exciting news, and I'm super happy to see a series like this kind of come more into the mainstream. However, that does mean that the paperbacks with the original covers are really hard to find. So I did do some rushing about, and I managed to pick up the first 2. However, I've not found the first book yet. So if you want to sell yours, or you come across a listing of it and you see it, feel free to DM me or send me an email or something, because I would love to have the original self-pub paperbacks. I just love the artwork so much, and I like the series. I've mentioned it once or twice on the channel. I'm a big fan. So I did manage to get Carl's Doomsday Scenario in the paperback. I love it. I love it. You get Mongo, Donut, and Carl. I think this is an underrated book. I know a lot of people think that this is probably the weakest of the books released. It is shorter, it is more tangential to the main plot, but it's still a ton of fun. And of course, the Dungeon Anarchists Cookbook, which if you know, you know. It's such a cool title, such a cool element to the story that was introduced in this 3rd book. And while I know I do always talk about how good the audiobooks are, and probably if I was going to re-listen to it, it would be the audiobooks, but I just love having these covers on the shelf. There's nothing wrong with being able to have something physical to show your love of such a great story. And I will pick up the rest, but there's not as much of a rush because it's the first 3 books that have been picked up by the publisher so far. And the new covers look okay, but I've said this before, I'm not a huge fan of the minimalist style in most cases. And yes, these are a little over the top and cheesy, but that's what I love about them. They're so cool. Next up, I also received the proof copies and final copies of Silence is Silver, and I'm so pleased with how these turned out. I love how the cover looks. I think Chris Nasgo did an amazing job with the cover. Does such a good job of capturing Bass and the Erdal people and just kind of some of the quirks of this story once you've read it. You know, you can download the ebook completely for free by signing up to my mailing list. However, I do like having physical copies as an option. Like I said, it's a novella, very short, 50 pages, just over 50 pages. But it is available in hardback and paperback. And just like Harbinger of Justice, the first book in the trilogy, you can take off the dust jacket and you'll have the cover without the typography, which is something I just love seeing. I'm also currently doing a giveaway for the number 1 out of 50 signed and numbered copy of Silence is Silver. The 50 sold out in less than 12 hours, but I did keep behind the number 1 and number 2 of the 50 signed and numbered copies. I'm giving away the number 1 on my mailing list, so if you sign up for my mailing list, link in the description, I will draw that winner over the weekend. And the number 2 I am giving away on Patreon. Even the covers, I think, blend really well together. These are 2 separate artists, but I think Chris did an incredible job of matching the first book in the series as well. I'm really pleased with it. Can you tell? Next one up, I got Murder at Spindle Manor, which was the Discord read-along for, I think it was the June read-along pick. I don't love the cover. I think it's nice. It's very minimalist. It's very simple. But the story is fantastic. I've already read this and I love this book so much. It's like Knives Out. It's quirky. It's bizarre. It's a murder mystery. It's short. Super fast-paced. A ton of fun. I did do a full wrap-up thoughts in my most recent wrap-up video if you want further thoughts. But I did really, really enjoy this book, so I'm glad that I picked it up. And I certainly will be picking up book 2 and 3 before the end of the year. I'm really looking forward to continuing this story. So it's a book haul, and I've already read this one. Proud of myself. That won't be the case for most of the rest. Next one up, I was very kindly gifted The Hunters, which is a desert fantasy book, and and like me, a desert fantasy book. So I'm really looking forward to checking this one out. I do really like the cover on this. It's quite an unusual, standout, unique style of cover and illustration. And this did just recently get the second cover revealed as well. I'm going to hold this so then I can edit the cover there for book 2. But it looks really interesting, and like I said, desert fantasy, I'm always here for it. She's on the run. They're out to kill. But what happens when you try to catch a hunter? Next on up was a charity book find. I found A Column of Fire by Ken Follett. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Now, this is a name that I keep hearing about, more about the Pillars of the Earth trilogy. However, when I saw this and it was £1, I thought, yes, a big chunky historical fiction of an author I really want to check out for just £1. Gonna have to pick it up. However, I have been warned that he has a lot of books and they're very chunky, which take up a lot of space. But this is an author that I've been meaning to check out for quite some time. I don't know if this is a good place to start. So if you have read his work, please let me know. Should I start here? Should I start elsewhere and then move to here? I'd be interested to see what's a good kind of opening into his work, because I believe this is a standalone. But the Pillars of the Earth books are the ones that I hear most talked about. In fact, it's even here, the Pillars of the Earth. I mean, look at that wall of, this might be overexposed, but there's an entire page of also by Ken, and it's just a wall of text of other books. My historical fiction knowledge is pretty minimal. I don't read a lot of historical fiction, but this seems to be one of the big names, is Ken Follett. So I will start with him eventually, just not sure what of his work I will start with. Next on up, we have Dreadful by Caitlin Rozakis. This is the broken binding edition, which means it has nice edges as well as a really nice naked hardback design with a quote and this really nice golden minimalist version of the cover. One of the things I said at the start of the year was I want to check out more comedy and fantasy, especially after loving Dungeon Crawler Carl as much as I did. So as soon as I saw this little fantasy comedy book, I knew I had to check it out. It is quite short. It's just taller than the size of a normal paperback, and it is a hardback. And I think it's only a couple hundred pages long. Okay, so over 300 pages long. And a very simple premise is that the main character wakes up in this destroyed evil wizard's workshop of this Dreadlord whomever, as the main character refers to it. This evil Dark Lord is known for very evil things. However, the main character finds out that that's them. They are the Dark Lord, and they have just lost all of their memories. Gav isn't really sure how he ended up in a castle full of goblins, or why he has a princess locked in a cell. All he can do is play along with his own evil plan in hopes of getting his memories back before he gets himself killed. And I can't wait to read it. Next on up, we have one of the most anticipated books of the year, and probably my second most anticipated sequel, aside from Stormlight 5, Into the Rift by Clay Harmon. Now, I included this in my TBR video. This is the sequel to Flames of Mira, which we have here. And I have mentioned a lot on the channel because I love this book so much, so I'm really looking forward to jumping into the sequel that just came out. And I love when authors do this, they have the events of the book before. That's so handy because it's been a while since I've read Flames of Mira, and I was thinking I might reread it, but I've just not had the time. However, you can't be a recap. I think this should be the standard. Every book should have a recap of the one before. It's just so helpful for when you have a bit of a break between a series or you're waiting for the next release. And if you read the acknowledgements at the back of the book, I'm included, which is insane. It's so cool to see. And I'm incredibly grateful to Clay. I didn't know that that was happening. It was very nice of him to include me. And of course, it's about my ranting and raving of book 1, but I only ranted and raved about it because it was such a good book. So this will most definitely be in my next quarterly wrap-up, because I'm going to read it soon. Next up, I did get the Black Tongue Thief and the Daughter's War books from Broken Binding, which means they have this really nice sprayed edges that matches the covers. I do think that the edges, especially on these books, just look stunning. The naked hardbacks are very minimalist, but very nice too. Black Tongue Thief is meant to be a comedy as well. It's meant to be very funny, and I'm looking forward to reading it. But I must say, the thing that really put me on to getting these books in particular was reading the Daughter's War synopsis in the new release video. When I did a new release video, most of those are me reading the synopsis for the first time ever. And I read the Daughter's War, and I thought, wow, that really does sound good. So that really caught my eye. So I might read the Daughter's War first. I think it's a different tone than the Black Tongue Thief. This just sounds more dark, and this is meant to be quite funny. So I don't know if tonally they're quite different. I do think that they follow different characters, and there's quite a time skip between them, because the Daughter's War is a prequel, so I should probably put it on this side. But my friend Veldon loves the Black Tongue Thief, and he says it's really, really good, and I trust him. Do I trust him? No, I don't trust Veldon, but I do want to check this book out. Next one up, the third book in the Gentleman... Can I say that without being demonetized? The Republic of Thieves by Scott Lynch arrived. The third book in that series shall not be named. Arrived, and I'm really happy. I think these are beautiful. I really like the covers of these. When I first saw them, I wasn't sure. Back before Broken Binding even did it, and I was reading The Lies of Locke Lamora. It's just one of those covers you're like, it's so not fantasy, especially that first cover. It just didn't make me think fantasy immediately. It makes me think more historical fiction or something like that. However, I do think with book 2 and book 3, it is leaning more into fantasy. But I do really like the covers of this trilogy. They've really grown on me. And I loved The Lies of Locke Lamora. Such a good book. And I've yet to continue on to Red Seas Under Red Skies. I know I should. And I know I'm going to love it because I love seafaring fantasy. So perhaps before the end of the year, I'll try and read book 2 and 3. I've got no excuse now because I've got these really pretty editions. They've got these detailed sprayed edges as well as these naked hardback designs that all match really nicely. That being said, I loved the audiobook for The Lies of Locke Lamora. So when I get on to book 2 and book 3, I might swap between the two. So if you are an audiobook reader, I always like to note when I think an audiobook as a good option, and I love the audiobook narrator for The Lies of Locke Lamora. So if you're so inclined, that is a good way to consume this story. I also got Artemis, the second book in the Broken Binding subscription sci-fi series, and I do really like what they've done with the Andy Weir covers. They're very minimalist, which again is not normally my thing. I'm not a huge fan of some of the trad covers, the movie tie-in covers. Not a big fan, so I do prefer these more minimalist style covers, and also the naked hardback without the text. Beautiful. And I do in particular really like the sprayed edge on Artemis. It just kind of has this spaceman floating in the middle with all the space around him. I think it's really effective. But Artemis seems to be the one that isn't talked about as much from Andy Weir. The Martian and Project Hail Mary, his newest release, are the ones that seem to get talked about and praised. So I'm interested to see what I think of Artemis. It seems even the people who have read it don't think it's as good as the other two. And last but most certainly not least, this list almost doubles with this series. I was very kindly gifted the Echo Saga by Philip C. Quintrell. This is a 9-book epic fantasy series, starting with Rise of the Ranger. I did just recently talk about this in my TBR video because I'm planning on reading Rise of the Ranger very, very soon. Because I'm going to Worldcon in Glasgow in August, and Philip will be attending, and I kind of just want to read as many books from authors that are attending as possible. One of them being Philip's Echo Saga, or in particular the first book. And Philip was kind enough to dedicate and also sign the books, and I must say the dedication and little drawing on book 3 is a little full. That's maybe the best dedication I've ever seen in a book. I love that so much. It made me laugh, and I think it's great. Well, like I said, this is a 9-book series, so it's a huge epic fantasy classic tale And look at all these covers. They are absolutely stunning. They just scream fantasy. And I was sold at 9-book epic fantasy series. Clearly it's got scope, it's got scale, and it's got good ratings. I can't wait. And there should be a review in the next quarterly wrap-up of Rise of the Ranger. And that's all the books I picked up in the last couple months. So let me know in the comments below, what was the last book that you got delivered? And thank you very much for watching. Outro. Also, a little update for the people who watch the entire videos. I did mention in the TBR video that I'm going to do a special secret video for this new series. I've been shooting it for 2 days. It's so dumb. I feel like I've built up some hype now, and it's not good. I just want to give you a heads up. It's not good. It's dumb. It's really stupid. But it should come out next week. I'm hoping it'll be out probably on the 18th of this month. So very, very soon. But I'm looking forward to sharing it. But don't get your hopes up.